Hello and welcome to week 5. Okay, so this week we are going to study the courts. And we have one reflection assignment and one quiz. And please, if you have not gotten your paper in yet for week 4, please get that turned in. If you have questions, please reach out to me. So this week we're studying the role of the court. And our text primarily focuses on the Supreme Court, which is the third branch, one of the 3 branches of government. And it was really insignificant at first. Nobody paid much attention to it until in 1803, a notable case, Marbury versus Madison, came before the court. And this was a dispute between the outgoing President John Adams and the incoming President Thomas Jefferson over a Justice of the Peace appointment that Adams had made before he left. So Adams had appointed William Marbury to be a Justice of the Peace in Washington, D.C. President Adams and the Congress had passed the Judiciary Act of 1801, which created new courts, added judges, and gave the president more control over the appointment of these judges. The act, some people think, was an attempt by John Adams and his party to frustrate Thomas Jefferson. Adams appointed 16 new circuit judges and 42 new justices of the peace. And the appointees were approved by the Senate, but they were not valid. They were not deemed to be valid appointments until their commissions were delivered by the Secretary of State. So Mr. Marbury had been appointed a Justice of the Peace in the District of Columbia, but his commission was not delivered. And so he petitioned the Supreme Court to compel the new Secretary of State under Thomas Jefferson, who is James Madison, the father of the Constitution, to deliver the documents. And James Madison wouldn't do it. And so it's suspected it's because of the political rivalry between Jefferson and Adams. So anyway, Chief Justice John Marshall was pretty new to being the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He was for almost a year, from June of 1800 until February of 1801, he was busy serving as the Secretary of State for President John Adams. And so then this case comes and you wonder, should he have recused himself? Because since he had worked under President Adams, maybe he was on Adams' side. So we look at the case, and he was the Chief Justice. John Marshall was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And so today, John Roberts is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court today. But back in 1803, it was John Marshall. And so this case comes before him, and so not only does he decide that Marbury did have the right to be commissioned as a Justice of the Peace, so he sided with his former boss, right, President Adams, but also John Marshall said, hey, we're going to put the Supreme Court on the map here. It's not just the executive branch and the legislative branch, the courts matter too. And he came up with and instituted the process of judicial review, which is the main rule that comes out of Marbury versus Madison. And it's where the courts have the power to look at the actions of other governmental branches and determine whether they are constitutional. And if they are not constitutional, as Marshall said in his own words, a law repugnant to the Constitution is void. So if other governmental agencies come up with something that is unconstitutional, then the court is the one who interprets the law. And so the court can look at these actions of other governmental agencies, which we might view as being somewhat untouchable, but they're still subject to the concept of judicial review. And so the court can look at them, and if they are wrong, they'll declare them void, and they have no force, or shouldn't anyway. So, interesting fun fact, and make sure you read chapter 13 this week. It's all about the courts. It's mostly the federal courts. But like, if you've ever had a traffic ticket, any sort of, more than just a minor traffic infraction, then you've probably dealt with a county or municipal court. I know I have. I have a lead foot. I have some speeding issues. So anyway, the courts can impact us more than just the sort of federal overview that we're going to read about this week. I hope you have a great week. Thank you. Bye.